When my daughter walked through the front door that Thursday evening with the woman I had spent 7 years trying to forget, I felt something inside me crack open like old porcelain. She was smiling, my daughter, beaming, actually, and the woman beside her, tall, perfectly composed, wearing that same confident smile I remembered from photographs I had burned, looked at me with eyes that held no recognition, or perhaps no remorse. "Mom," my daughter said, her voice bright with excitement. "This is Vanessa. She's the marketing director at the community center I told you about. She's been helping me with my college essay." The room tilted. The coffee mug in my hand suddenly felt too heavy, and I set it down on the kitchen counter with a trembling hand. My voice, when it came, sounded like it belonged to someone else. "Hello," I managed. Vanessa extended her hand, manicured nails, diamond bracelet catching the afternoon light. That same perfume, something floral and expensive, that had clung to my ex-husband's shirts during those final months of our marriage. "It's wonderful to meet you, Mrs. Patterson," she said smoothly. "Your daughter is remarkably talented. I've been so impressed with her dedication." Mrs. Patterson, not Lydia. She did not know who I was. "My name is Lydia Marie Patterson, and I am 43 years old. I live in a modest 2-bedroom house in Riverside, Ohio, a quiet neighborhood where the biggest excitement is usually Mrs. Chen's elaborate holiday decorations or the annual block party. My life is simple now, deliberately simple. I work as a medical transcriptionist from home. I volunteer at the local food bank twice a month, and I raise my daughter, Sophie, who just turned 17. It was not always this way. 7 years ago, I had a different life, a bigger house, a husband named Marcus. We had been married for 11 years, together since college. He worked in corporate finance, traveled frequently, and I thought we were happy. I thought we were building something. Sophie was 10 then, still young enough to believe her parents would be together forever. I remember the exact moment I discovered the affair. It was March 2017. Marcus had left his laptop open on the kitchen table. I had not meant to snoop. I was simply closing it to save the battery when a message notification appeared. The preview was enough. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow night. Wear that dress I like." The sender's name was Vanessa Hartley. I sat at that kitchen table for 3 hours, reading through months of messages. Hotel reservations, weekend trips disguised as business conferences, promises and plans and intimate words that should have been reserved for me. When Marcus came home that evening, I confronted him. He did not deny it. He simply looked tired, as if the weight of maintaining the lie had finally exhausted him. The divorce was swift and cold. Marcus married Vanessa 6 months after our papers were finalized. Sophie and I moved to this smaller house, and I rebuilt our lives one careful day at a time. I taught Sophie that betrayal does not define you, that dignity matters more than revenge, that we could be happy in our smaller world. And we were happy. 7 years of peace, 7 years of healing, until she walked through my door. Sophie had started mentioning the community center program about 2 months earlier. It was September, the beginning of her senior year, and she was determined to get into a good college. The program offered mentorship for high school students interested in marketing and communications. Sophie's passion. "There's this woman, Mom," she had said over dinner one evening, her eyes bright. She runs the program. She's really successful, works for some big consulting firm part-time but volunteers at the center. She said she'd help me with my application essays. I had been supportive, encouraged even. Sophie had struggled to find direction, and this seemed to ignite something in her. Over the following weeks, she spoke about Vanessa often, how smart she was, how she explained things differently than teachers did, how she took time to really listen. I had been grateful. A mentor could make all the difference. I never asked for a last name, never thought to look up the program's website. Why would I? Vanessa was a common enough name. And my Vanessa, Marcus's Vanessa, lived 2 hours away in Cleveland with my ex-husband, or so I had believed. Looking back now, there were small signs. The way Sophie mentioned Vanessa had moved to Riverside recently, how she had experience in corporate environments. But I had not connected them. The past was supposed to stay in the past. Now, standing in my kitchen, watching my daughter's hopeful face as she waited for my approval of this woman, I felt 7 years of carefully constructed peace begin to crumble. Vanessa was still smiling that professional smile. "Sophie speaks so highly of you," she said. "You've raised an incredible young woman." The words felt like glass in my ears. This woman, who had slept with my husband, who had helped destroy my marriage, who had lived in the house that should have been my daughter's inheritance, was now standing in my home, being praised by my child. "Thank you," I whispered. My hands were shaking. I pressed them against the counter to steady myself. Sophie did not notice. She was too excited, too caught up in the moment. "Vanessa said she'd help me with the essay this weekend if you're okay with it, Mom. Maybe we could work here? Or I could go to her place." "No." The word came out sharper than I intended. Both of them looked at me. I forced my face into something resembling calm. "I mean, Sophie, honey, could you go grab your laptop from upstairs? I want to ask Vanessa a few questions about the program. Parent stuff." Sophie hesitated, sensing something in my tone, but then nodded and bounded up the stairs. Moment her footsteps faded, I turned to Vanessa. "When were you planning to tell me?" My voice was low, barely controlled. She blinked. "Tell you what?" "Don't." I stepped closer, keeping my voice quiet but firm. "Don't insult me by pretending. You know exactly who I am. You're Marcus's wife." Something flickered across her face then. Not surprise. Recognition. And then, remarkably, a kind of weary resignation. "Ex-wife," she said quietly. "We divorced 8 months ago." The words hung in the air between us. "And you thought," I continued, my voice shaking now, "that it would be appropriate to insert yourself into my daughter's life? To mentor her? To become her friend?" "I didn't know," Vanessa said quickly. "Not at first. Sophie never mentioned her father's name, just said her parents were divorced. By the time I realized the connection, we'd already been working together for weeks. She's talented, Lydia. I wasn't going to punish her for—" "For your sins?" I finished. "For what you did?" Her jaw tightened. "I'm not here to fight with you, and I'm certainly not going to do this where your daughter can hear us." She was right, of course. Sophie could come back down any second. But rage was coursing through me now. 7 years of suppressed anger suddenly finding an outlet. "You need to leave," I said. "And you need to stay away from my daughter." "That's not your decision alone," Vanessa replied, her voice harder now. "Sophie is almost 18. She chose to work with me, Are you going to tell her why she can't? Are you going to explain that her mentor is the woman her father cheated with? The question hit like a physical blow, because she was right. Sophie did not know the details of her father's affair. I had protected her from that ugliness, told her only that her father and I had grown apart. She knew there had been someone else, but she did not know names, did not know specifics. Please, my voice cracked. Please, just go. Vanessa studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. I'll tell Sophie I have an emergency. But this conversation isn't over, Lydia. We need to talk. Properly. Without anger. We have nothing to talk about. We have everything to talk about. She countered. For Sophie's sake, if nothing else. She left just as Sophie came back down the stairs, laptop in hand. I heard Vanessa's apology, something about a work crisis, a promise to reschedule. Sophie's disappointment was visible, but she hugged Vanessa goodbye and watched through the window as the woman who had once destroyed my life drove away in a sleek gray sedan. Is everything okay, Mom? Sophie asked, turning to me. You seem upset. I looked at my daughter, my beautiful, innocent daughter, who had no idea she had just brought a ghost into our home. And I lied. Everything's fine, sweetheart. I just have a headache. That night, I could not sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the encounter over and over. The shock of seeing her. The realization that she had been in my daughter's life for weeks. The way Sophie had looked at her with such admiration. I wanted to call Marcus, to scream at him, demand to know if he had known, if he had orchestrated this somehow. But it was past midnight, and more importantly, I knew it would accomplish nothing. Marcus and I barely spoke anymore. Our communication limited to brief text messages about Sophie's schedule or school expenses. Besides, Vanessa had said they were divorced. When had that happened? And why was she here, in Riverside, in my town, my neighborhood, my daughter's life? The questions churned in my mind until dawn broke through my bedroom curtains. I made coffee with shaking hands and sat at the kitchen table where, just hours before, Vanessa had stood. The house felt contaminated somehow, as if her presence had left a stain. Sophie came down around 7, already dressed for school. She poured herself cereal and sat across from me, and I watched her the way I had when she was a baby, memorizing every detail of her face. So, she said between bites, what did you think of Vanessa? The question was so innocent, so casual. How could I answer it? How could I tell her that the woman she admired was the reason her father no longer lived with us? The reason we had moved to this smaller house? The reason I sometimes still woke up in the middle of the night feeling like I had failed? She seems very professional, I said carefully. Sophie grinned. She's amazing, Mom. She really gets it, you know? The whole college application process. She said my essay has potential but needs more vulnerability. She wants to help me dig deeper. Vulnerability. The word felt like mockery. What did Vanessa Hartley know about vulnerability? About having your life dismantled, your trust shattered, your future rewritten by someone else's choices? That's good, I managed. But Sophie, I've been thinking, maybe you should work with someone else, a teacher at school perhaps, or one of the college counselors. Sophie's face fell. Why? I thought you wanted me to have a mentor. I do. I I think it's important to have someone who's trained specifically in college counseling. Vanessa has helped tons of students get into great schools, Sophie protested. She went to Northwestern. She knows exactly what admissions offices are looking for. Mom, please don't make me quit. This is important to me. And there it was, the impossible choice. Tell her the truth and shatter her innocence, or stay silent and watch the woman who had destroyed my marriage build a relationship with my daughter. We'll talk about it later, I said, standing up. You'll be late for school. Sophie left with a confused expression, and I spent the rest of the day trying to focus on work, failing miserably. By noon, I had made a decision. I needed to know more. Why was Vanessa here? What did she want? I opened my laptop and searched for her name. Vanessa Hartley had always maintained a professional online presence. LinkedIn, a polished website for her consulting business. What I found surprised me. Her LinkedIn showed she had moved to Riverside 3 months ago. Her status was listed as divorced. The consulting firm she had worked for in Cleveland was no longer listed. Instead, she was marked as an independent consultant, working remotely. I dug deeper, finding a local news article from 6 weeks ago. The community center had profiled their volunteer mentors, and there was Vanessa, photographed with a group of teenagers, Sophie among them. The article quoted her. I wanted to give back to the community that welcomed me during a difficult transition. These young people remind me what's possible when someone believes in you. A difficult transition. Was that how she described the end of her marriage to my ex-husband? I called the community center, my heart pounding. A cheerful receptionist answered. Hi, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. My daughter is in the mentorship program, and I had a few questions about one of the volunteers, Vanessa Hartley. Oh, Ms. Hartley is wonderful, the receptionist gushed. She's been such an asset to the program. Is there something specific you'd like to know? How long has she been volunteering? Let me check. Since August. She reached out to us when she moved to town, said she had a background in marketing, and wanted to help young people. We were thrilled. Good mentors are hard to find. Did she request to work with my daughter specifically? Sophie Patterson? A pause. I'm not sure I can share those details without Ms. Hartley's permission, but I can tell you that mentors and students are matched based on interests and availability. Is there a problem? No, I lied. No problem, thank you. I hung up, more confused than before. It sounded legitimate, random, but the coincidence felt too massive to ignore. Riverside was not that big. The community center was 3 miles from my house. Had Vanessa known Sophie would be there? Had she sought her out deliberately? The questions consumed me. That evening, when Sophie got home, she was quiet. She went straight to her room, and when I knocked on her door an hour later, I found her lying on her bed, staring at her phone. What's wrong, honey? She looked up at me, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Vanessa texted. She said maybe it would be better if she referred me to another mentor. She said she sensed some tension yesterday and doesn't want to cause problems. My heart clenched. Part of me felt relief, but looking at Sophie's devastated face, I also felt a stab of guilt. Did she say why? I asked carefully. No, just that sometimes personalities don't mesh well between mentors and parents, and she respects that. But Mom? Sophie's voice broke. She was helping me. My essay was getting so much better. And she understood things, about wanting to prove yourself, about feeling like you have to work twice as hard because of where you come from. I sat down on the edge of her bed. Where you come from? Sophie wiped her eyes. Divorced family, smaller house than most of my friends. You working so hard just to keep us afloat. I love you, Mom, and I'm not complaining. But Vanessa got it. She said she understood what it's like to rebuild your life after everything falls apart. The words pierced me because Vanessa had rebuilt her life on the ruins of mine. She had married Marcus, lived in the house I had decorated, slept in the bed I had shared with my husband, and now she was connecting with my daughter over their shared experience of loss. Sophie, I said carefully, what if I told you there was a reason I'm uncomfortable with Vanessa mentoring you? A reason that has nothing to do with her qualifications? My daughter sat up, searching my face. What reason? This was the moment. I could tell her everything. The affair, the betrayal, the identity of the woman she had come to admire. But looking at her hopeful, fragile expression, I could not do it. Not like this. Not without thinking it through. Let me sleep on it, I said instead. And let me talk to Vanessa first, okay? Sophie nodded slowly. Okay, but Mom, whatever it is, I'm not a kid anymore. You can tell me. I know, I whispered. I know you're not. I texted Vanessa that night. We need to talk. In person. Just you and me. Her response came 20 minutes later. Tomorrow, 2:00. There's a coffee shop on Main Street called Riverside Grounds. I'll be there. I barely slept again. When morning came, I went through the motions of my day with mechanical precision. Sophie left for school. I pretended to work. The clock moved forward with agonizing slowness. At 1:45, I drove to Main Street. Riverside Grounds was a local favorite, a cozy place with worn leather chairs and the smell of fresh ground coffee. I arrived first, ordered a tea I would not drink, and sat at a corner table. Vanessa arrived exactly at 2:00. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, none of the polished perfection from 2 days ago. She looked tired, older than I remembered. There were lines around her eyes that had not been there in the photographs I had burned. She sat down across from me without ordering anything. Thank you for coming, I said stiffly. You demanded I come, she replied. But I'm here. What do you want to know? Everything. Why you're in Riverside, why you're working with my daughter, what you want. Vanessa took a breath. Marcus left me, she said bluntly. Last January, 2024. He met someone at work, younger. He said I had become too focused on my career, too distant. The irony wasn't lost on me. I felt nothing at this news. No satisfaction, no sympathy, just numbness. He fired me, she continued. I was working for his firm. Did you know that? After we married, I left my old job to work for his company. When we divorced, he made it impossible for me to stay. So I lost my husband and my career in 1 month. I'm supposed to feel sorry for you? I asked quietly. No, Vanessa said. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm explaining why I'm here. I needed a fresh start. I had some savings, enough to live modestly for a while. I chose Riverside because it's small, quiet, and the cost of living is lower than Cleveland. I didn't know you lived here, Lydia. I swear I didn't. And the community center? Sophie? Vanessa looked down at her hands. That was coincidence. I needed something to do, something that mattered. Volunteering felt right. When I met Sophie at the orientation, I thought she seemed bright and motivated. We were matched because we both listed marketing as an interest area. I didn't ask questions about her family. Why would I? When did you realize? The second week, Vanessa admitted. She mentioned her dad lived in Cleveland, worked in finance. The pieces clicked. But by then, we had already built a rapport. She trusted me. And honestly, Lydia, I thought maybe this was a chance to do something good. To help her in a way that had nothing to do with my history with her father. You thought you could mentor my daughter without telling me who you are? I was going to tell you, Vanessa said. Eventually, I didn't know how. And then more time passed, and it got harder. Sophie was making such progress. Her writing was improving. She was opening up about her goals. I didn't want to destroy that. But it's built on a lie. Is it? Vanessa leaned forward. What I've taught her is real. The guidance I've given is genuine. My past mistakes don't erase my present abilities. Your past mistakes destroyed my family. The words hung heavy in the air. Vanessa flinched, but did not look away. You're right, she said finally. They did, and I'm sorry. I know that apology comes 7 years too late, and I know it doesn't change anything. But I am sorry, Lydia. What Marcus and I did was wrong. Selfish. Cruel. I've had a lot of time to think about it, especially after he left me the same way. So, this is your redemption? Helping my daughter? Maybe, Vanessa said softly. Or maybe it's just me trying to be a better person than I was then. I can't undo what happened, but I can help Sophie, if you let me. I stared at her, this woman who had haunted my worst memories for 7 years. She looked smaller now, more human, flawed and broken and trying, just like everyone else. She doesn't know, I said. About you, about the affair. I know. If you keep working with her, she'll find out eventually. She's smart. She'll put it together, or someone will tell her. Then maybe, Vanessa suggested carefully, we tell her together, the truth, all of it. Not to hurt her, but to be honest. She deserves that. She deserves to not have her father's mistress pretending to be her mentor. I shot back. I'm not pretending, Vanessa said firmly. Whatever else I am, whatever I've done, I care about Sophie. She's talented and kind and deserves every opportunity. I can help her. The question is whether you're willing to let the past go enough to allow that. The question struck me like a slap. Was I willing? Could I separate my pain from my daughter's future? Could I put Sophie's needs above my own hurt? I need time, I said finally, to think, to figure out what's right. Take all the time you need, Vanessa replied. She stood up, pulling her jacket on. But Lydia, for what it's worth, you did an incredible job raising her. She's everything a parent could hope for. He doesn't deserve her, but you do. She left before I could respond, and I sat alone in that coffee shop for another hour, my tea growing cold, my mind spinning with impossible choices. That evening, Sophie cornered me in the kitchen while I was making dinner. She had that determined look on her face, the one that reminded me of her father, stubborn, unwilling to let things go. Mom, what's going on? And please, don't say nothing. I set down the knife I had been using to chop vegetables. What do you mean? You've been weird since Vanessa came over, and now she wants to stop working with me, and you're avoiding my questions, and I'm not stupid, Mom. Something's going on. I turned to face her fully. My daughter, standing there in her high school hoodie and leggings, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. When had she grown up? When had she become this person who could read me so easily? "Sit down," I said quietly. "Please." We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd discovered Marcus's affair 7 years ago. The same table where Vanessa had stood 2 days ago. How much of our lives happened in this small space? "I need to tell you something," I began. "About your father. About the reason we got divorced." Sophie's face grew serious. "I know there was someone else. You told me that years ago." "I did, but I never told you who, or anything about her. Because you were protecting me." "Yes, and because it hurt too much to talk about." I took a breath. "The woman your father had an affair with? Her name was Vanessa. Vanessa Hartley." I watched the realization dawn on Sophie's face, the way her eyes widened, the way her mouth opened slightly. The moment of confusion before the pieces clicked into place. "No," she whispered. "No, that can't be." "It's her," I confirmed. "Your mentor, the woman you've been working with, she was the reason our marriage ended." Sophie stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me bring her into our house?" "I didn't know until I saw her. She moved to Riverside recently. She says it was coincidence, that she didn't know we lived here." "Do you believe her?" The question surprised me. Did I? "I don't know," I admitted. "We met today. She explained everything. She says she wants to help you, that her past doesn't change her ability to mentor you. But Sophie, I need you to understand." "Understand what?" Sophie's voice was sharp, hurt. "That you lied to me? That you let me spend weeks with her, trusting her, and you never said anything?" "I just found out 2 days ago." "And you didn't tell me then. You could have told me right away, Mom. But instead, you let me keep texting her, kept planning to work with her." Tears were streaming down Sophie's face now. I told her things, personal things, about our family, about you, about how hard it's been. And the whole time, she was the person who made it hard. The words cut deep because they were true. I had waited, out of shock, out of fear, out of my own confused feelings. But Sophie was right. I should have told her immediately. "You're right," I said, standing up. "I should have told you right away. I was wrong. I'm sorry." "Did Dad know she was here?" Sophie demanded. "Does he know she's working with me?" "I don't know. I haven't talked to him." Sophie grabbed her phone from the table, her hands shaking. "Well, I'm going to find out." She stormed upstairs before I could stop her. I heard her door slam, and then, faintly, her raised voice as she called her father. I sank back into my chair, my hands covering my face. This was what I had been afraid of. The explosion, the pain, the destruction of Sophie's innocence. Vanessa might be trying to be a better person, but her presence had still managed to tear open old wounds and create new ones. 20 minutes later, Sophie came back downstairs. Her face was blotchy from crying, but she looked calmer, more resolved. "Dad says he didn't know," she said flatly. "He and Vanessa got divorced almost a year ago. He hasn't talked to her since. He says he's sorry I got caught in the middle of this." "Okay," I said carefully. "How do you feel?" Sophie laughed, but it was a bitter sound. "How do I feel? I feel stupid. I feel betrayed. I feel like everyone in my life has been keeping secrets from me. You, Dad, Vanessa. Who else hasn't told me the truth?" "Sophie, I told her about you, Sophie interrupted. About how hard you work. About how you never complain even though I know money's tight. About how you're the strongest person I know. And the whole time, she was the reason you had to be so strong. She sat down heavily, her anger deflating into something sadder. What do I do now, Mom? Do I quit the program? Do I never talk to her again? Or do I don't know. She did help me. My essay is better because of her. Does that count for anything? It was the same question I had been asking myself. Could Vanessa's help be separated from Vanessa's history? Could we take the good she was offering while acknowledging the harm she had caused? I don't know, I admitted. This isn't a situation with easy answers. Do you hate her? Sophie asked. I thought about it. Hatred required energy, required feeding it over time. And I had spent 7 years trying to move forward, not looking back. I did, I said finally. For a long time, I hated her and him, but mostly I hurt. And eventually, the hurt faded into just sadness for what could have been, for what we lost. Do you still hurt? Sometimes, I confessed. Seeing her brought a lot of it back. But Sophie, that's my pain to deal with, not yours. But it is mine, Sophie said softly. Because she hurt you. She hurt our family. That makes it my pain too. We sat in silence for a while, mother and daughter, both trying to navigate impossible emotional terrain. Finally, Sophie spoke again. I want to hear her side. From her. Not Dad, not you. I want to hear why she did it, and why she's here now, and what she really wants. Are you sure? No, Sophie said honestly. But I need to. Otherwise, I'll always wonder. I nodded slowly. Okay, I'll arrange it. The meeting happened 3 days later, on Sunday afternoon at our house. I had suggested neutral ground, but Sophie insisted she wanted to be in her own space. Vanessa arrived at 2:00, and this time I noticed the nervousness in her movements. She was not the composed professional or the tired divorcee from the coffee shop. She was a woman about to face the consequences of her actions from 7 years ago, as explained to a teenager she had come to care about. We sat in the living room, Sophie and I on the couch, Vanessa in the armchair across from us. The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows, making the moment feel too bright, too exposed. Sophie spoke first. My mom told me everything about you and my dad, about the affair. Vanessa nodded. I thought she might. I want to hear it from you. Why did you do it? It was a brutally simple question, the kind only a teenager could ask with such directness. Vanessa took a moment before answering. I don't have a good answer, she said finally. Nothing that will make it okay or understandable. Your father and I met at a conference. We talked. We connected. And instead of stopping there, instead of maintaining professional boundaries, we kept talking. Meeting. Lying to ourselves that it was just friendship. When did it become more? Sophie pressed. About 4 months after we met. He told me his marriage was struggling. I told myself that made it somehow less wrong. But that was a lie, Sophie. His marriage was struggling partly because of me, because he was giving his energy and attention to someone else. I felt the old anger flare up but pushed it down. This was Sophie's conversation now. Did you know about me? Sophie asked. Yes, he showed me pictures. Talked about you all the time. You were 10, and he was so proud of you. But not proud enough to not cheat on my mother. The words landed like stones. Vanessa winced, but did not argue. No, she agreed quietly, not proud enough to do the right thing. Why did you move here? Sophie demanded. To Riverside, of all places? Honestly, bad luck. Or maybe fate, depending on how you look at it. Vanessa leaned forward. When your father and I divorced, I needed a fresh start. I chose Riverside because it's small and quiet. I had no idea you lived here. I didn't even remember the name of your town from 7 years ago. But when you realized, you didn't leave. No, Vanessa admitted. I didn't, because by then, I had met you, Sophie, and you reminded me of why I got into mentoring in the first place. You're smart and driven and deserve someone to believe in you. I thought maybe I could help you in a way that had nothing to do with my history with your father. But it has everything to do with it, Sophie shot back. You can't separate the two. You're only here because you married my dad. You only know our town exists because of what you did. You're absolutely right, Vanessa said. I can't separate them, and I was wrong to try. I should have told your mother immediately who I was. I should have stepped back from mentoring you. I didn't, and that was selfish. I'm sorry. Sophie stood up, pacing the room. Everyone's sorry. Dad's sorry, you're sorry. Mom's probably sorry for things that aren't even her fault. But sorry doesn't change anything. Sorry doesn't give me back the life I had before the divorce. Sorry doesn't erase the last few weeks of me trusting you. No, Vanessa agreed. It doesn't. So what now? Sophie turned to face her. You think an apology fixes this? You think we all just move on? I don't think anything fixes this, Vanessa said. But I think we have choices about how we move forward. You can cut me out of your life completely, and I'd understand. Or... She hesitated. Or you can let me continue to help you with your college applications. Not as someone trying to make up for the past. Just as someone who genuinely wants to see you succeed. Why should I trust you? It was the heart of the matter, the question beneath all the others. Vanessa was quiet for a long moment. You shouldn't, she said finally. Trust has to be earned, and I broke your trust before I even had it. But Sophie, I'm not offering you trust. I'm offering you skills and knowledge that can help you get into the college you want. What I did to your family was wrong. Who I am now, a person trying to be better, that's separate. You can take what I offer professionally without forgiving me personally. Sophie looked at me. Mom, what do you think? All eyes turned to me. For weeks, I had been grappling with this question. Could I allow Vanessa to continue being part of my daughter's life? Could I separate my pain from Sophie's opportunity? I think, I said slowly, that this is your decision, Sophie, not mine. You're 17, almost an adult. You get to choose who you want in your life and why. But does it hurt you? Sophie pressed. If I keep working with her? I considered lying, making it easier for everyone. But Sophie had asked for honesty, and she deserved it. Yes, I admitted. It hurts. Seeing her reminds me of one of the worst periods of my life. But Sophie, my hurt doesn't get to dictate your future. If you think Vanessa can help you, if you want to continue working with her, then that's your choice. I'll support you either way. Sophie's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what I want. Part of me wants to tell her to leave and never come back. But part of me, she does help Mom. My essay is so much better, and she gets things about the application process that other people don't. Then maybe, I suggested carefully, you don't have to decide right now. You can take time. Think about it, and whatever you choose, we'll figure it out together. Vanessa stood up. I should go. Give you both space to talk. She looked at Sophie. Whatever you decide, I hope you know that my respect for you is genuine. You're going to do great things, with or without my help. She left quickly, and Sophie collapsed next to me on the couch, exhausted from the emotional intensity. I put my arm around her, and she leaned her head on my shoulder, the way she used to when she was small. This is so messed up, she murmured. Yeah, I agreed. It really is. How did you do it, Mom, after Dad left? How did you not fall apart? Who says I didn't? I replied softly. I fell apart plenty. I just tried to do it when you weren't looking. Sophie was quiet for a moment. I want to keep working with her, she said finally. Not because I forgive her. I don't know if I ever will. But because she's right. I can use her help without forgiving her. Is that wrong? No, I said firmly. That's pragmatic. That's you taking control of your own future instead of letting the past control it for you. Will you really be okay with it? I kissed the top of her head. I'll be okay because you'll be okay. That's all that matters to me. The following weeks were strange and awkward, but we found a rhythm. Sophie resumed working with Vanessa, but now with clear boundaries. They met only at the community center or the library, never at our house. Their communication was limited to college application matters. And Sophie kept me informed of everything. Every meeting, every piece of advice, every draft of her essay. Vanessa, for her part, maintained strict professionalism. She sent me polite text messages before each session, confirming times and locations. She never tried to insert herself into our lives beyond her role as a mentor. She respected the boundaries we had set. I found myself watching Sophie closely during this time, worried that the revelation about Vanessa would damage her in some way. But my daughter surprised me. She seemed more mature somehow, more thoughtful. She asked harder questions about trust and forgiveness, about how people could be both good and bad at the same time. One evening in late October, we were making dinner together when Sophie brought it up. I've been thinking about what Vanessa said, she began, chopping tomatoes for a salad. About being a better person now than she was then. What about it? I asked, stirring pasta. Do you think people can really change? Like, fundamentally? It was a big question, the kind that required an honest answer. I think, I said carefully, that people can grow and learn from their mistakes. But change requires action, not just words. Vanessa says she's different now. Whether that's true depends on how she lives her life going forward. She divorced Dad because he cheated on her, Sophie said. That's gotta be some kind of karma, right? Maybe. Or maybe it's just a reminder that if someone will cheat with you, they'll cheat on you. Sophie set down her knife. Do you think Dad loved her? Really loved her? I don't know, I admitted. He said he did, but I'm not sure he knew what love meant. Real love requires sacrifice and commitment, and choosing someone every day, even when it's hard. What your father and Vanessa had was based on excitement, and secret, and fantasy. That's not love. That's infatuation. Do you still love him? The question caught me off guard. I love the person I thought he was, the man I married. But that person either never existed, or he changed into someone I don't recognize. So no, I don't love who he is now. Sophie nodded thoughtfully. I'm glad we had this talk. About all of it. Even though it hurt. Me too, I said. And I meant it. A week before Sophie's early decision application was due, Vanessa requested a meeting with both of us. She called it a final review session. We agreed to meet at the library on Saturday morning. When we arrived, Vanessa had printed copies of Sophie's entire application package, essays, activity list, recommendation requests, everything organized in neat folders. I wanted to go through everything one last time before you submit, Vanessa explained. Make sure nothing's been missed. For the next 2 hours, we worked through each component. Vanessa was thorough and professional, suggesting minor tweaks, catching small errors, confirming deadlines. I sat back and watched her work with my daughter, and I saw something I hadn't expected. Genuine pride. When we finished, Vanessa leaned back in her chair. Sophie, this is an incredibly strong application. You should be proud of yourself. Thank you, Sophie said, for everything. I know the situation has been complicated. That's a diplomatic way of putting it, Vanessa said with a slight smile. But yes, complicated is accurate. Sophie, I want you to know something. When you get into college, and I believe you will, it will be because of your hard work and talent, not because of me. I just helped you organize what was already there. It was a gracious thing to say, and I felt some of my residual anger toward her soften slightly. After Sophie went to browse the library's new arrivals, Vanessa turned to me. Can I ask you something? She said quietly. You can ask. Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me? Not for Sophie's sake or anyone else's. Just for yourself. I thought about it. Forgiveness had seemed impossible for so long, an abstract concept I could not quite grasp. But sitting there in that library, watching my daughter grow into someone strong and capable despite the pain she had experienced, I realized something. I don't know, I said honestly, but I'm trying to stop letting what you did define my life. And maybe that's a start. Vanessa nodded. That's more than I deserve. Thank you for letting me help Sophie. And Lydia, for what it's worth, I never stopped regretting what I did. Not for a single day. Good, I said simply. You shouldn't. In mid-December, Sophie got her early decision acceptance letter from her first choice school. She screamed when she opened the email, and I cried happy tears while she jumped around the kitchen. It was one of those perfect moments, untainted by the past, focused entirely on the future. She texted Vanessa immediately. I got in. The response came quickly. I knew you would. You earned this. Congratulations. That evening, Sophie wanted to celebrate with her father. Marcus drove down from Cleveland, and we had an awkward but pleasant dinner at Sophie's favorite restaurant. He was proud, and for once, we could all focus on Sophie's achievement without the weight of our history pressing down on us. As we were leaving the restaurant, Marcus pulled me aside. Lydia, can we talk for a minute? I nodded, and we walked a short distance away while Sophie checked her phone. I heard about Vanessa, he said. About her mentoring Sophie. I'm sorry. I had no idea she had moved to Riverside. I believe you. Sophie told me what you said about letting her make her own choice about working with Vanessa. That took a lot of strength. I did what was best for our daughter, I said simply, like I always have. Marcus looked uncomfortable. I know I don't have the right to ask this, but are you okay? Really okay? It was perhaps the first time in 7 years he had asked me that question with genuine concern. I'm getting there, I said. Every day, I'm getting there. He nodded. I never meant to hurt you. I know that doesn't change anything, but I need you to know that. What happened with Vanessa? It was the worst mistake of my life, and I paid for it. We both did. Yes, I agreed. You did, but Marcus, I don't want to do this anymore. The anger, the blame, the pain. I'm tired of carrying it, so I'm putting it down. Not for you, for me. I understand, he said quietly, and thank you for raising our daughter to be so much better than either of us were. She is pretty amazing, I said, looking at Sophie, who was laughing at something on her phone. She's like you, Marcus said. Strong, principled, forgiving, even when forgiveness seems impossible. We rejoined Sophie, and Marcus drove back to Cleveland. Sophie and I went home, and she fell asleep early, exhausted from the emotional high of her acceptance. I stayed up late that night, thinking about everything that had happened over the past 2 months. Vanessa's unexpected appearance, Sophie's discovery of the truth, my own journey from rage to something resembling peace. The next morning, I did something I hadn't planned. I texted Vanessa. Thank you for helping, Sophie. You were right, she earned this, but your guidance mattered too. Her response came an hour later. That means more than you know. Thank you for giving me the chance to do something right. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed one more thing. Maybe someday we can have coffee. Just to talk. No agenda. The response? I'd like that. I didn't know if we would ever actually have that coffee. I didn't know if I could truly forgive Vanessa for what she had done. But I knew I was tired of letting the past poison the present. And maybe, just maybe, there was room for something different. Not friendship, but perhaps understanding. Winter settled over Riverside, bringing snow and holidays and the busy final months of Sophie's senior year. Vanessa continued to mentor Sophie through the remaining application processes, but the intensity had lessened. Sophie had her acceptance, her future secured. The rest was just details. On Christmas Eve, Sophie and I were stringing lights on our small tree when she asked me something unexpected. Mom, are you glad Vanessa came into our lives? I paused, a strand of lights in my hands. That's a complicated question. I know, but I've been thinking about it. If she hadn't moved here, if I hadn't worked with her, would I have gotten into my first choice school? Maybe. Maybe not. You're talented either way. But she helped, Sophie persisted. And more than that, she forced us to deal with things we'd been avoiding. You and me, we never really talked about Dad's affair before. Not in detail. We just kind of moved past it without processing it. She was right. I had tried to protect Sophie by not discussing it, but maybe in doing so, I had also kept us both from truly healing. Having her here, Sophie continued, seeing you handle it with so much grace, it taught me something important about how you can acknowledge someone hurt you while still taking what's useful from them. About how forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and boundaries don't mean hatred. When did you get so wise? I asked softly. I learned from the best, she said, hugging me. You could have made this so much worse, Mom. You could have forbidden me from working with her, or bad-mouthed her to me, or let your pain control everything. But you didn't. You let me make my own choices. That's real strength. I held my daughter close, this almost adult who understood more than I gave her credit for. I'm proud of you, I whispered, for how you handled all of this, for your maturity and your wisdom. I'm proud of you too, Sophie replied. Later that night, after Sophie had gone to bed, I sat by the Christmas tree and thought about the strange year we had had. A year that had started with such peace and had been disrupted by the arrival of a ghost from the past. But somehow, we had navigated it. Somehow, we had emerged not broken, but stronger. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, but the message made it clear who it was from. Merry Christmas, Lydia and Sophie. Wishing you both peace and joy. I started to delete it, but then I stopped. Instead, I saved the number and responded, Merry Christmas. Thank you again for everything. In February 2025, Vanessa's mentorship with Sophie officially ended. The program concluded with a small ceremony at the community center, where mentors and students were recognized. Sophie had invited me to attend, and I had debated for a week before finally deciding to go. The community center was decorated with banners congratulating the graduating seniors. About 30 students and their families filled the room, along with a dozen volunteer mentors. Vanessa was there, wearing a simple blue dress, looking nervous. The program director spoke about the success of the mentorship initiative, sharing statistics about college acceptances and scholarship awards. Several mentor-student pairs were highlighted, including Sophie and Vanessa. They had to stand together at the front of the room while the director praised their work. Sophie Patterson improved her essay writing by leaps and bounds under Vanessa Hartley's guidance, the director announced. And Vanessa's dedication to her students has been extraordinary. They're a perfect example of what this program can achieve. I watched Sophie smile politely, watched Vanessa maintain her professional composure, and I felt a strange mix of emotions. Pride in my daughter, grudging respect for Vanessa's genuine commitment to helping, and beneath it all, a lingering sadness for what could have been different if choices had been made differently 7 years ago. After the ceremony, as people mingled and ate cookies, Vanessa approached me. Thank you for coming, she said quietly. Sophie wanted me here. Still, it couldn't have been easy. I looked at her directly. No, it wasn't. But I'm learning that not everything has to be easy to be right. Vanessa smiled slightly. That's very wise. I had a good teacher, I said, glancing at Sophie, who was laughing with some of the other students. My daughter taught me a lot these past few months. She's remarkable. You both are. There was a moment of silence, and then Vanessa said, I'm moving back to Cleveland. I accepted a new job, and I'll be starting next month. I felt surprised by my reaction, not relief as I might have expected, but something closer to sadness. That's good, I managed. A fresh start. Yes, I think Riverside was supposed to be temporary, a place to heal and figure things out. I'm grateful for the time here, but it's time to move on. Will you stay in touch with Sophie? Only if she wants me to, and only to the extent she's comfortable with. I'm not trying to be a permanent fixture in either of your lives, Lydia. I know my place. I nodded. For what it's worth, you did a good job with her. She's going to do great things at college, and you were part of that. Thank you, Vanessa said, her voice thick with emotion. That means everything. Sophie joined us then, sensing the conversation was important. Are you two okay? She asked, looking between us. We're okay, I said, and I meant it. Vanessa hugged Sophie goodbye, and I saw tears in both their eyes. Whatever complicated history existed, the relationship they had built was real. Messy and imperfect, but real. Spring came to Riverside with sudden warmth and blooming flowers. Sophie finished her senior year with honors and spent her free time preparing for college. Marcus had agreed to split the costs with me, and for once, our communication was civil and focused on our daughter's future. In April, I received an unexpected package in the mail. Inside was a book, a collection of essays about forgiveness and healing, with a note from Vanessa. Lydia, this book helped me during my darkest days after Marcus left. I thought it might offer you something useful as well, even though our situations are different. I hope you and Sophie are well. Thank you for giving me the chance to be part of something good, even if I didn't deserve it. With respect and gratitude, Vanessa. I read the book over the course of a week. Some of it resonated, some of it didn't, but one passage stuck with me. Forgiveness is not about the person who hurt you. It's about freeing yourself from the prison of resentment. You can forgive someone and still maintain boundaries. You can acknowledge their humanity while protecting your own peace. I thought about that a lot. I thought about Vanessa, flawed and human and trying to be better. I thought about Marcus and his weak choices. And I thought about myself and how much energy I had spent over 7 years being angry. One evening, I talked to Sophie about it as we sat on the porch watching the sunset. Do you think you'll ever forgive Vanessa? I asked her. Really forgive her? Sophie considered the question. I think I already have, in a way. Not because she deserves it, but because holding on to anger was exhausting. She hurt us, but she also helped me. Both things can be true at the same time. You're very wise for 17. 18 next month, she corrected with a grin. And I learned from you, Mom. You showed me how to be strong without being bitter, how to set boundaries without being cruel, how to move forward without pretending the past didn't happen. I'm still figuring it out, I admitted. We all are, Sophie said, but we're figuring it out together. That's what matters. In May, Sophie graduated from high school. It was a beautiful ceremony, held outdoors under a clear blue sky. I sat with other parents, watching my daughter walk across the stage to receive her diploma, and I felt overwhelming pride. Marcus was there too, sitting a few rows away with his new girlfriend, a quiet woman named Sarah who seemed kind. We had exchanged polite greetings before the ceremony. The pain of seeing him had faded to a dull ache, barely noticeable anymore. After the ceremony, as families gathered for photos, Sophie pulled me aside. Mom, I need to tell you something. What is it? I invited Vanessa to the graduation party at our house tonight. I hope that's okay. I took a breath. My immediate instinct was to say no, to protect my space from reminders of the past. But looking at Sophie's hopeful face, I realized this was important to her. It's your party, I said. If you want her there, she's welcome. Really? Really. She was part of your journey to this moment. It's right that she's there to celebrate it. Sophie hugged me fiercely. Thank you, Mom. You're the best. That evening, our small house filled with Sophie's friends, teachers, and family. Marcus and Sarah came, staying only for an hour before leaving. And Vanessa arrived, bringing a thoughtful graduation gift, a leather-bound journal with Sophie's college name embossed on the cover. I watched from the kitchen as Vanessa congratulated Sophie as they talked and laughed, and I felt peace. Not happiness, not friendship, but peace. The wound wasn't healed, but it was no longer bleeding. Later, as the party was winding down, Vanessa found me in the kitchen. "Thank you for letting me come," she said. "Thank you for being important to my daughter," I replied, even if the circumstances were complicated. "Lydia, I know I've said this before, but I need to say it one more time. I'm sorry. For everything. For the pain I caused you. For the disruption to your family. For the years of hurt. I can't undo any of it, but I am truly sorry." I looked at this woman who had once been the villain of my story. She looked tired and older and human. Just another imperfect person trying to do better. "I believe you," I said. "And Vanessa, I forgive you." The words surprised even me. I hadn't planned to say them, but once they were out, I realized they were true. I did forgive her, not because she had earned it or deserved it, but because I was tired of carrying the weight of unforgiveness. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't know what that means." "It doesn't change what happened," I clarified. "And it doesn't mean we're friends, but it means I'm letting go of the anger. For my sake, not yours." "I understand, and that's more than enough." She left shortly after, and I stood alone in my kitchen. The same kitchen where this entire complicated chapter had begun months ago. But something felt different now. Lighter. Sophie found me there, wrapping her arms around me from behind. "You okay, Mom?" "Yeah," I said. "I really am. It's been 6 months since Sophie's graduation. She's at college now, thriving in her classes and making new friends. We talk on the phone twice a week, and she comes home for holidays. She's happy, growing, becoming the person she was always meant to be. Marcus and I have developed a functional co-parenting relationship, even though Sophie is technically an adult now. We email about bills and schedules, and the communication is polite and practical. He's still with Sarah, and from what Sophie tells me, they seem stable. Vanessa sent Sophie a care package during her first week of college, study snacks, and a funny card. Sophie texted her a thank you, and they exchange occasional messages. It's a loose connection, nothing intense or complicated. Just two people who helped each other during a difficult time, maintaining a respectful distance now that the need has passed. As for me, I'm still in my small house in Riverside, still working as a medical transcriptionist, still volunteering at the food bank. But something has shifted in me. I'm lighter somehow, freer. I learned something important through this whole experience. You can't control who enters your life or what pain they bring with them, but you can control how you respond. You can choose grace over bitterness, boundaries over revenge, healing over hatred. Did Vanessa deserve my forgiveness? Maybe not, but I deserved the peace that came with giving it. Sometimes people ask me if I regret letting Vanessa mentor Sophie, if I would make the same choice again, knowing everything I know now. And the answer is yes, because that experience taught my daughter and me something invaluable about the complexity of human beings, about how someone can be both harmful and helpful, about how the world is not divided into good people and bad people, but into imperfect people making imperfect choices, trying their best, failing sometimes, and hopefully growing from those failures. Sophie got into an excellent school. She's pursuing her dreams. And I played a part in that? Yes, but so did Vanessa. I can hold both truths at the same time without one canceling out the other. Looking back now, I see the entire situation differently. Vanessa's arrival in our lives wasn't just a disruption or a painful reminder of the past. It was an opportunity for Sophie to grow, for me to heal, for all of us to learn that forgiveness is possible, even when it seems impossible. I'm not saying it was easy. It wasn't. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, days I wanted to scream at the unfairness of it all, moments I questioned every decision I made. But I survived it. We survived it, and we're better for it. So if you're reading this, if you're facing your own impossible situation where someone from your past has unexpectedly reappeared in your present, I want you to know you have choices. You can let the pain consume you, or you can acknowledge it and move forward anyway. You can build walls, or you can build boundaries. You can seek revenge, or you can seek peace. And if you choose peace, even when it's hard, even when you don't think you can, even when forgiveness feels like betrayal of your own pain, you'll discover something beautiful. Freedom. Freedom from the weight of carrying anger. Freedom to build a future not defined by past hurts. Freedom to be happy despite what was taken from you. That's the gift Vanessa unknowingly gave me. Not her apologies or her help with Sophie's essays, but the chance to choose peace over pain. To prove to myself that I could face my deepest hurt and not be destroyed by it. And now, standing in my small kitchen, in my small house in Riverside, Ohio, with my daughter thriving at college and my heart finally at peace, I can say with absolute certainty, I made the right choice. I chose forgiveness. I chose healing. I chose my daughter's future over my past pain, and I would do it again. Would you have done what I did? If someone who betrayed you appeared in your child's life, offering genuine help, would you let them stay? Would you find it in yourself to forgive, not for them, but for you? Tell me your thoughts. I'd love to hear your story. And thank you for listening to mine.